As you can see, we are not at home. We are actually near the Derwent River in Hobart in southern Tasmania, and I'm filming from the lovely deck at the back of our Airbnb accommodation. But this is where we came in when we arrived yesterday, and we came onto this lovely outdoor area, and that's where I'm going to talk to you today. So I'll just take you along. There's a lovely little wood stove, which we haven't tried. Not sure if we will, but it's a really cute little thing. Great for rust printing if we were staying here a bit longer, actually. And I'll just sit down and then I'll have a talk to you. From where I sit, I can see a lovely pot full of pansies, and we could actually smell the aroma from them before we even came in the gate, and that really made me feel like it's spring. It's a bit cool today and a bit cloudy, but not windy. We've had some very windy days, and the car was really rocked by the wind as we were driving down the highway to get here. It's a 3-hour journey, but we took longer because we took stops for having a cuppa and then later on to have some lunch. And then we had to drop in my entries to the exhibition. And just as I'm filming, I don't know if you can see behind the tree, there's a boat on the water just coming past. Can't really hear it, but I can see it. Hope you can see it too. So here I am, sitting comfortably. It's just so lovely to get away for a few days. We haven't done that for a while, unless we're, going to appointments and things. So what we did was we came yesterday. As I said, we dropped in my exhibition pieces to the Long Gallery at Salamanca in Hobart. It's a beautiful gallery in an old building, and I'll share some photos of the exhibition. We're going to the opening tonight, so hopefully I'll be able to get some images to share with you. I don't think I'll be able to do a video, but I'll certainly take some photographs. It's always a wonderful exhibition, and when we dropped in my entries, they had already hung some items up and it just looked amazing. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's by a group called Stitching and Beyond, and they have a biennial exhibition, which is every second year, as the term suggests, and it's called Out of Hand. And there's so much interesting work done. People really pushing the boundaries of what stitching is and what materials you can use within the Stitching and Beyond and Out of Hand phrases. There's a very loud bird near me. It seems like it's an alarm call. Maybe it's worried about me sitting here. But I'll just welcome you to episode 68 of On My Studio Table. I have brought some things to stitch on, and I'll share a few things that I've been working on during the week also. Enjoy. I've been enjoying working on the September section of the Coverlet of Comfort with Kathryn Chambers of K3N Cloth Tales. If you watched the video last week, you will have seen that I've put some circles down and also the outside cutout areas of the circles. Now it's time to start embellishing them. So that's what I've been doing for the last few days. First of all, we were asked to stitch around our circles. And Kathryn gave a few examples about how to do that, just around the edge of each circle. So I used a straight stitch or an overcast stitch, some people call it a stick stitch, to fasten the edges down. They were already invisibly basted, so they weren't going to move around, but it just gives a nice edge to the circle. And then I used 3 different types of stitches to embellish them. So I've done, it's kind of a V-stitch, I guess you could say, around the edge after I did the stick stitch. Here I've done a stitch that is new to me. I learned it last week from Lisbeth Degn of Dragenkunst in the year-long project that I'm doing with her. It's called a coherent triangle stitch, and it's quite an enjoyable stitch to do. So if you want to learn how to do it, just look up Lisbeth's channel and you will see her instructions for week 37 of the Circle Challenge. The other thing that came up in Kathryn's video this morning was to do something on the seam line between the light and shade areas. So I've decided to do cross stitch in the same colour as the embroidery on the outside of it. So with this one, I'll do the same thing with a green variegated pearl cotton and so on right through the piece. Another stitch that I've done around the circle is a chain stitch, and I've done it at right angles to the edge after doing the stick stitch. And this is in a variegated cotton as well. To start stitching around them, it was suggested that we stitch just with a running stitch around each circle. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do around these pieces, but I've started doing the stitching around the circles. And here I've done 3 rows because there is room, but I've stopped so that I have room to do whatever I decide to do here. I also need to think about that when I go around this circle. These exterior cutout circles, I decided to do a type of cantha stitch. This is one that Kathryn showed us earlier on with the coverlet. I used it for the centre of the wonky stars and just to fill in the square section in the middle. And so I decided to use that to attach these down as well, and I'm doing 2 shades of grey for all of them. The 2 threads that I'm using are silken pearl and a 6-stranded embroidery floss. So I'm actually using 4 strands of the embroidery floss because I want it to be a similar thickness to the silken pearl. The variegated threads that I'm using are these 4. They are called Eleganza, which I think I've mentioned before, and I'll just turn them up so you can see the colour number, which is on the label on the back. So if you wanted to take a screenshot to get these colours, you'll know what they are. They don't have any particular names, they're just coded by these numbers. So this is quite a dark one. It has a bit of orange in it. This is a variegated pink one. This has different greens and a touch of blue. And then this one is a paler green with a hint of yellow. And those are the colours that I've decided to use for this section. Once I've gone around all the shapes, I may do something else in between them if there are any gaps left. I'm not really sure. But so far, I'm really, really happy with how it's going, and I'm finding it very, very enjoyable. And I've taken it with me on our little break and working on it while we're here, which is really, really pleasant. I'm almost finished my woodlands journal, and I've again really enjoyed working on this, and it expresses the need to conserve our woodlands and the animals and plants that live in them. I've done the page that I showed you last time that hadn't yet been stitched, and as I mentioned, it features the staghorn beetles, which were in a museum catalogue, and a lovely photo of a coastal area or a river area. I hadn't done any stitching, so what I did was I couched down this sparkly yarn again, like I did on the Tasmanian tiger page, after I did the other stitching. So I did the cross stitches on the staghorn beetles like I did last time. These plant-like shapes using backstitch and detached chain stitch, and some feather stitch, and then some grasses or reeds in various places. I also added a couple of buttons because there just seemed to be a space here and I couldn't think of anything that I wanted to stitch there. So the buttons actually balanced it out really nicely. And I also, as you probably know from last week, I used a tea bag as part of the collage and some text from the material that I received from the conservation group and a little bit of vintage dictionary page. I also did this page since the last video. This again has an image of a Tasmanian tiger with all the forests cut down. And there are also some orange-bellied parrots sitting on the dead branch there. They are also endangered. And then I've put a bit of text there, year after year, climate change and grasses, near my grasses. And I've done them in red this time. Red for danger, and they are in danger, these animals, of losing their habitats and becoming extinct. I put a little tab on this one as well. A few of the other pages have tabs also, and I really like the look of them when they protrude from the edge of the book. Again, some tea bag, a bit of dictionary page, a little bit of an offcut of the other thylacine collage that I did, showing just his foot as a reference to that page, which I've placed earlier in the book, and a little bit of vintage sheet music. With this branch here, I've used a thicker pearl cotton, and I really like the definition that gives. I did that on at least one other page in the journal as well. After that, I have the back cover to do. And I've just received some new mail from this conservation group. So I'm going to be cutting out the images from this and using them in the collage. And even though there aren't a lot of images, I'm sure there are plenty for me to use. So I'll go through that and collage that during this next week, and then that will be the last page I need to do. This lovely image, I might see if I can use this as well on one of the pages. So it's nearly done. I haven't quite got to the binding stage yet, but in the next week or two, I probably will be able to do that. The circle project is going along month by month, and it's a wonderful record of all the different things that we have learned. And it's really fun to go back through it and just see what we've actually done. And already I have used one stitch in another project, which you would have seen in the Coverlet of Comfort, where I used the stitch from a couple of weeks ago for the September section. So this will be a really good reference book for me to look at if I need to think of some stitches to do. So this is the one that I've used in the coverlet for the September section. It's the coherent triangle stitch, which I really, really liked. This week's page involved a type of blanket stitch. I had never done it like this before, and I think it's a really interesting way to do circles again. And so following some of the suggestions that Lisbeth gave for this project, I did one full circle, one 3/4 circle, and one half circle. One thing I learned while doing this is if you make the circle too big, it's very hard to keep the tension correct. So the spokes tend to become a bit loose and it's hard to keep the tension right, as I said. But I really enjoyed the stitch, and I really like how it looks with the pearl cotton that I used, which is the pink one that I'm also using in the coverlet. The background is an eco-printed piece of cotton, and I backed it with some thin wadding, which had a fusible side to it. So I actually ironed it on, and then I didn't have to invisibly baste it. The edge of the circle is a running stitch, and then I've whipped it. That one is ready. Week 39, Lisbeth has shared that, but I haven't seen the video yet. So if I get it done, I'll share it in the next video.